My question was actually, how do you deal with different learning styles classroom? And I had to deal with one style. I don't think I've ever had a classroom with one style of learners. So I'm just looking, where do I move my slides? Is there a button here, or are you doing that wrong? Okay, so basically, we have to embrace the difference. Our classes have unique people. Everyone learns differently. And we use different sensory channels, but we also use different cognitive channels. Even if someone is, it doesn't mean that they're exactly like another visual learner, because they may process it differently, as you're going to see. So basically, it's mixing methods, and then you have a chance of reaching everyone. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So if you take a look at these, what I've done is put together things that I would say go for one particular type, but you can see how you would use this with a variety of students. As soon as you put with photos or images, or complete mind maps and charts, or other kinds of maps, color-coded systems, so writing with different colors on the board, putting your verb in one color and your subject in another color. I wish I had learned that way with the different genders. I really, really do. I think it would have helped. Word searches, crossword puzzles, jumbled words, mazes, labeling and drawing. These are all really fun. Okay, let's go on to the bad audio. Okay, is this any better? It's been a problem with my headset, I think. In and out. Sorry, I think it's my headset. Is there any place I can adjust this? Well, is there a place on the screen I can try to adjust the microphone?
Yeah, if you go right above where your picture is, you'll see an icon of a microphone.
Okay, I don't see my picture at all, so
okay.
Microphone, yeah, I see it. Okay, I will, all right. Okay, I'll put it up higher.
Now, actually turn it down just a little lower, actually.
Down, is that better?
A little more.
More down, okay.
There is
How's
great.
that?
I think that's
okay.
Good. Okay, thanks.
Okay, all right, I'll hold on to it. Is that, no, I don't need to hold the mic? Okay.
All set.
Is that all right? That's okay. Okay. So if we take a look at auditory learners, listening to texts, obviously, is something that auditory learners enjoy. They like guided discussions, and when you give them specific things to talk about, they really enjoy it. Ah, thanks, Nellie. Music, rhymes, raps, brainstorming and buzz. Someone asked me what this was. It's in Jeremy Harmer's book, I think, where you say, think of all the things that you talk about if you want to know about the Empire State Building. And then they start talking about vocabulary groups. So how long did it take to construct it? How tall is it? How many elevators does it have? How many floors does it have? That would be a buzz group. And it comes from the idea of students talking together, like talking. Activities and pronunciation. And I had a webinar today, which I couldn't watch, on the schwa. So Sinead has lots of ideas for this. Storytelling, of course, is auditory. And for those who have not seen the film, The Mirror Has Two Faces, have a look and watch how Barbara Streisand pulls in her students by telling a story. It is fantastic. Speaking games, of course, and debates and presentations. Okay, let's go on to the kinesthetic emotional learners. Now, these are the types that I have defined in working with students and teachers. Role plays, where they get to they want to be. Personalized activities, such as talk a little bit about yourself. Some of the slides. Okay. Any kind of emotional responses. I don't know what's going on with the slide. All right. Creativity. Telling personal stories. I came back from New York. I had been in the blackout, and I told my students and said, now, what do you think the problems were? And they had to come up with what happens when there is no electricity at all, and all the little things that you take for granted. Cooperative learning, where they work in groups that are interdependent on each other. Each person has a role. They have to fulfill the role. talking about what they like and don't like, and personal surveys and questionnaires, and knowing who they can ask for help. Okay, the next one is the kinesthetic motoric. We go to the next slide. Yes. Okay, these people like to move. Nellie talked about it. Absolutely, they love getting up, miming, role plays, demonstrating things physically. I have done this with students who have problems with where the accent goes on a word. The word analysis, where I make them move on the actual syllable. Relating the things to real life. Manipulatives, anything they touch, so they feel an office supply, they feel a pen and they describe it. Running dictation, where they run to the wall and they see what's there and they run back and tell somebody. And drawing is also kinesthetic motor. Okay, let's go on to the next one, which is the global learners. So I took two sets of learning styles. One is the sensory based, those were the first four, and now this is what we would say is more cognitive. So those are the learners that like the big picture. And when they unjumble words or sentences, they're looking at the whole thing. They like to paraphrase. They enjoy spontaneous role plays. And they also enjoy creative writing because there aren't as many rules. And they like to find the rules from the examples. Yeah, TPR, that was definitely for the kinesthetic motoric. And with storytelling, they enjoy the predicting and the creating of endings. And if you notice the little person here, I'm very global. Forget the manual, I'll figure it out. And then I don't. Okay, so taking a look at the analytics, now these are the ones who want to be very logical. Everything has to have a reason. It has to have theory behind it. So they like word grids, especially things where you fill in the verb and the noun that go along with the stem of the word. They really like that. Any kind of matching activities, logic puzzles. You can buy books of these. There are loads of them. They love them. False activities, especially when they make their own sentences. Finding errors. I've had students correct my texts, not the English, but if I do a text where I give a little bit of translation in German, they're the ones that love to correct it, and it's wonderful because then I get it corrected. Problem-solving activities, critical thinking skills, and any kind of structuring or categorizing. Okay, now the important thing here is have to be ready to stretch. Let's go to the next slide. So whenever we start with one of these, if you start off, you might have to hit something to see the slide. Is that possible? No. There is a text. Okay, if it doesn't show up, I'll just say it. So if you start with a writing activity, you start with a picture, and then you put it into writing. So you start with the visual, then you go to the writing part, make it more logical, and you can take something that is written and put it into speaking. You can take something that was listening, they listen to a text, and then they have to act it out. So you move into movement. Something that was movement might create a statue idea where they come to the front of the room and they create their own statue, and then they have to write down what happened with all the details. Give them an overview of something, and they have to find the details of it. Start off with something that is written, and then, Sinead, no, you don't have to decide in one style or not. You go absolutely crazy trying to do that. Take something that is written and put it into movement. Take something that's listening and put it into speaking. Take something that started with facts and add in the emotions, such as the Empire State Building story. How did you feel the first time you stood up there? Or how do you think you would feel? Do you remember the end of, I think it's Sleepless in Seattle, where they meet at the top of the Empire State Building? Or taking emotions and making facts out of them. Just looking at Sinead's question. Yes, allowing students to just, let's go to the next slide actually because it covers that. Let's hope the text is there. Ah, here they are. This is what I said. So stretching out of where we start is important. It's important to remember that we often teach in the way we learn ourselves. And sometimes we have to allow the students to find another approach and be flexible. We have to stretch ourselves, which is what Nellie said. We have to be ready to make changes and accept them as individuals. Okay, can we go to the last slide, which I think is maybe the most important part of this? Ask for feedback. What worked for whom? Why did it work? What do you remember about it? What can you do on your own? How can you stretch? What else can you do? So when we ask the students, did you learn from this? Why did you learn from this? What do you remember about it? We may get many different answers to the same activity, and this gives us clues to what the student actually needs. So this is very much based on the classroom, but when they say, I remember the activity because of the picture, and then they say, I'm having problem learning vocabulary, I know I have to give them tips for a visual learner. If they say, I remember the activity because I spoke to a colleague and they asked me for tips, I give them auditory tips. The specific styles are on an individual basis in the classroom. Yes, I agree, Giovanna. Gives them meta language skills. In the classroom, we need to mix and match, and don't be afraid to do things because they are not your style. Probably the most important for the teacher